firefighter who was, I don't want to violate any HIPAA laws, but recovering or doing well. Joe, do you know?
Yeah, doing good.
All right, well, that's good to hear. We put together a letter. Mark Owens has some of them. We'd like each of those who lost homes or significant damage to homes. I know there's one in Mountain View Estates that truly almost melted, one of our county employees actually. But in this letter, and I'll just give a synopsis of it quickly, we've already said to those who lost their homes that we would waive our fees for a building permit and anything associated with that direct fee. A few little guidelines there: must be within 18 months, and many insurance policies ask you to rebuild within a year anyway. At least mine does at Bryan Head, where the great firefighters in the Bryan Head fire came 300 yards from my home. And when I went there, I said, what piece of equipment did they have on this 45-degree slope? And what it was, shovels and their manpower and woman power. I don't know who was there, but what an amazing job. So our insurance had requested, certain things of us. But in addition to that, the letter, now if you lost homes and you're here, would you please raise your hand, because I want you to get this letter. Mark's going to pass some out. Okay, Mark's got like 25 copies, and we'll get them to you. I have mine, so I'm going to hold on to it. Raise your hands again, please, if you lost homes. And there was some here. Which one is it? Oh yes, the one I'm holding. All right, if you didn't get one, raise your hands. or one hand. It's always funny, raise your hands. And in elementary school, I took my teachers literally, surrender. In addition to that, we say to preserve the value of your property. These are all recommendations. These are not requests. We would ask you to look into the future a little bit for the insurability. Second bullet point, there's no county fees for a demolition permit, which you research. If that's required by your insurance, get a demolition permit. And we're not going to charge for that. Now, Department of Environmental Quality from the state might, although I think that with the governor's comments when he was up here and talked to me, he says that the state will do everything possible, and I want to hold his feet to the... No, I don't want to say that. I want to make sure he honors that pledge to really reach out. And then, of course, the Department of Environmental Quality may have some fees or costs that I don't know. Know the location of your septic tank and leach fields to protect them from any further damage. Verify utilities are safely disconnected or capped. You've already been doing that, Chief and others. Protect your property and your neighbors by using best practices for erosion control. There's some that are directly in harm's way, we get it, and we'll talk more about that tonight. The next bullet point, whether or not rebuilding, take reasonable steps to prevent the property from becoming a public health concern or safety or nuisance. If rebuilding, please follow all the building codes. Possible to reuse portions of your foundation. That will be determined by any assessments that come. That they can say it's still sturdy, it's still functional. Work with geotech engineers and follow their recommendations. Regarding any remediation of hazards, that's a bunch of words on a piece of paper, but from our perspective, and if you have any questions, please contact the office. The number is there. But as far as it goes, people say that they really feel for you or they are concerned. And sometimes I'll sit in a funeral or I'll have somebody say, well, how sincere is that? That's not jaded, because I really believe everyone's telling me the truth. But at the same time, how could they really know how I feel or how a spouse feels or somebody that's lost their home, right? So can you truly understand the depth of not only our words, but the way we feel, and my connection personally to this valley, and all of you who have endured this sort of hellish nightmare, and yet at the same time, here we are. and we go forward. That's what Americans do. And I appreciate your time this evening. Bridget, are you ready? You got it up and going? We're going to pray. Well, thank you again. I'll stay the whole meeting and answer any questions you might have or further clarification of the paper that you were handed. If you didn't lose your home, but you'd like one anyway, maybe you were affected in some way other than just a total loss, I'll give you one as well. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Commissioner. So we're here to, I mean, this is a horrible situation. We feel for this valley. We're part of the community. We do live south of here, but we do feel for the community. And so as much as it's worth, we do feel your pain. My name is Jason Whipple. I don't know if I said that before, but I'm Director of Emergency Services for Washington County. So we're just going to talk about a few things. It's kind of a high view of this. There's a lot more work that's going to be going into this as the days and the weeks happen. There's some short-term things, and there's definitely a lot of long-term solutions that we're going to be coming up with. And so we're not going to be able to, I'm sure we're not going to answer all of your questions today of like what does this look like in 5 years. But we're going to try to do our best. So we just appreciate your cooperation, your honesty, your questions, and we'll get through this. My weather guy is actually part of the incident management team that's up in Enterprise, and he's actually doing work, and so he's not here, so you got me as the weather guy. I gotta see this thing to know what I'm doing. I didn't bring like a snow coat and a raincoat and all those kind of things that you're supposed to have as a weather guy, but here I am. Maybe? Wow, did that make that noise? Okay, so this is kind of what they put out every day at the briefings for the fire. So it's specific for this area. And just to be clear, we'll be doing this even after this team leaves and the weather guy goes with them. We'll still be in communication with the Weather Service every day and get the spot weather every day for this area for quite a while, quite a long time to come. There's some things that they're going to be able to do for us, hopefully, and that is put portable weather stations around the valley, up in higher elevations, in some of these burn areas that will give us real-time data versus just like radar data and then data that comes from other more accessible stations. So we're working on that, and hopefully we'll have that in place very soon. That will help us to predict a little bit more about the rainfalls and what we're expecting to come off the hills. Those kind of things will help us to respond a little bit better and be a little bit more prepared. But this is what we get every day from them as part of the weather brief. As you can see, they said that this was like a very little chance that we were going to get much moisture today, and we got much more moisture today. So that's kind of what we're looking at for the next couple days. We'll probably look at something again, similar situation for tomorrow. That's what we're planning on. Hopefully it doesn't hit us as hard. A little bit lighter rain, that's what we ordered, but it just didn't deliver. So, but as we go on through the week, our percentage drops, so we're not going to get the rain like we're getting right now. So hopefully we can get through the next 2 days and be better. The nice thing about this, one, it's really good for the fire. It helps put the fire out. It helps the humidity come up, which helps the fire and the fuel situation. So with lightning strikes that happen, future stuff, the longer we can keep that humidity up, the better. It'll help us to not start fires as quick. But with this also comes, these summer storms, comes lightning. And so we have a higher chance of seeing those lightning, those dry storms, which keeps our head on us while we're looking for those starts, looking for those other areas that are affected, and hopefully it gives us a little bit of a break and a little bit of time to breathe. But I would love to sit up here and pick this apart for you, but you're much smarter than I am, so you can look at, kind of see what it looks like up till next Wednesday. And the wind, the predicted winds, the wind speeds, they're all kind of dropping for today, and then they'll kind of pick up throughout the week, but still not anything like we've seen in the last few weeks, which is really, really good for us. Any questions on this? And I haven't seen an application from KSL or anybody to come to their weather. Thank goodness. Okay, so now you are going to have Joe from the Forest Service. You guys probably all know Joe pretty well. But he's going to come talk to us a little bit about a thing called the Bear Report, which has been happening. I know we've got quite a few calls like, hey, we haven't seen anybody up here doing anything to worry about this flood. We all know that when we have a fire like this and we get the burn scars, that the next logical thing that is thrown at us is floods, right? And we get those burn scars that have nothing to hold that water back. It just brings us debris, mud, and black soot. So we know that's going to happen. And we know that's something that's going to happen for the next few years. It's not just going to be this year and we'll be done. It will progressively work its way through. Yes, sir.
Meteorological question. Please
Oh,
correct me
no,
if I'm
this is
wrong.
going to be bad.
Normally, at least when we have a fire, it's pretty obvious that a wind is not good, particularly a gust. However, when you have clouds dropping rain over a particular area, is it not true that you would want wind, you would not want those clouds to stay in the same spot and continue to drop water? You would want the wind to blow the clouds away.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would love that. I would, and when we ordered the rain, it was like a slow soaking rain, but unfortunately, and I'm not a meteorologist, so I couldn't tell you, but unfortunately, we don't have any control over that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know how to answer that question because I don't know how to make that happen.
I mean, it just seems like the worst possible thing would be to have the clouds sit there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sit there.
Absolutely. If we have that storm park above Pine Valley Mountain, that is probably the worst scenario that we can have, and it just sits there and rains and rains and rains. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
But back to the point of, you know, we got the concern from the citizens like, hey, you're not doing anything, which there was some like, hey, why aren't we putting berms up around Pine Valley? Why aren't we doing these things? There's kind of a method to the madness. And when we start doing just things sporadically, it can really mess up the long-term plan. It can mess up actually taking water where we want it to go. We have the risk of building ponds where we don't want them, putting pressure against berms that aren't engineered, aren't planned. And if we have one of those breached, then now we release that water without it being in a drainage of any kind. So there's some things to consider and to look at. Just a few days after the start of this fire, we had people from the county, from the Bear team, up here doing assessments and looking at the soils, looking at the burn scar, looking at all those things, and starting to come up with information to build a report, to build a plan for mitigation. So this next few slides that Joe's going to talk to have a lot to do with the Bear Report and what the assessments they've come up with. And so I'll let him talk to you about that.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name's Joe Bracksteiner. I'll do the best I can with this thing. Anyways, first I'd like to start off. So I'm the district ranger here in Pine Valley. You know, we've been at this since the 19th of June. The fire right now, it's 81% contained. We're in the current process of transitioning from what we call a complex incident management team to a type 3 team. So the incident's gotten less complex. You know, but as you know, I'm sure people have seen on the news, you know, you get the rains that come after the fire. And so that's what we're going to talk a little bit about here. So we've got this thing, it's called the BEAR assessment. So that's the Burned Area Emergency Response. And so what we do is we get it's called a bark map, and basically it tells how hot it's been burning. And we have to go out and do some field verification. And what that produces is a map, and that's what tells us where that is hottest at, where the soils are most erosive. Then we do these models, and it's called then they produce, you have to probably, so this, okay. There we go. So that's the burned area severity map. And I'm not going to get into the details of this, but we do have copies of this that you can look at. The thing that's going to be most interesting to you all, and I think it's this one right here, it's a debris flow map. So it's showing where the debris flows are going to be coming from. And it's based on the amount of precipitation that you're going to get. So obviously the more precipitation we get, the bigger the debris flows are going to be. I just went up to the campground with a few of the folks, and I'm sure you've seen some of the water coming down the creek there. It's muddy. It's frothy right now, so it's already started. And we really haven't had much rain. And you'll hear more from emergency services, but, you know, so, well, anyways, let me back up. So that you get this bear map, this process that we get, and what we do is we put together values at risk. So we work with the county, NRCS, the state. They put together values at risk that are on non-federal lands. And then we look at federal lands, so like trails, roads, campgrounds, stuff like that. And then the NRCS and the county and the state, they look at the values at risk in the community, so homes, roads, stuff like that. Then they put together the plan about how they're going to mitigate those risks. It could be straw bales, it could be straw wattles, stuff like that. So that is going to be the final map anyways, is going to be produced tomorrow. And the closure area, I wanted to briefly talk about that too. So we've got a fairly large closure area, and that's really for your all's protection. It's for also the protection of firefighters. They're up there doing a job. So I know people are probably anxious to see some stuff out there, but try and stay out of everybody's way because we still have a lot of work going on out there. And we are going to be revising that closure order as time goes on. Like I talked about, the debris flows, and the county's going to talk a bit more about this, but you got to be ready to go. Mother Nature's pretty awesome, but if you get the right thunder cell over the right area, you could have some pretty big debris flows. So, anyways, I'm going to be around later this evening throughout the for questions and stuff like that. But thanks, everybody.
Joe,
Oh,
could you
question.
comment about it, any sort of future revegetation plan?
So, well, yeah. So I guess just to back up a little bit, talking about post-fire rehab. So there's a lot of that goes into post-fire rehab. There's a lot of burned trees up in the campground, and that's why the campground's going to be remain closed for a bit. But the first process is we got to remove those burnt trees. They're dead, standing. They're hazard trees. Then we're going to follow up with a plan to replant up there. Of course, it takes a while for trees to grow, so you know. Anyways, does that answer the question, Commissioner?
In the campground for sure, but a knoll like that, you just leave it alone?
Yeah, it depends. You know, we'll put together a plan on where we're going to plant at, but the campground for sure. You know, a lot of this stuff is going to be naturally revegetated, but there is going to be some seeding that goes on as well. Because again, it's about trying to stabilize the hillsides, and that's going to include straw bales, straw wattles. We're also going to be doing some grass seeding. And there may be some tree planting too, but that's going to mainly be focused in the campground.
The trail system, like the asphalt trail system up to there, what's your timeline on getting that opened up to Pine Valley residents?
It's going to be a while. You know, right now you've got a lot of dead standing trees up there. Until we get those hazard trees mitigated, that area is going to be closed down, the trail.
For the rest of the season, or?
I suspect it would be the rest of the season, but yeah, we're working on it. The other thing is with these debris flows, that's going to cause damage to the trails too. Anyways, but it could be a while. Yep.
So Forsyth Hill here, it has a burnt tree standing, you just said that you may leave them. Well, what about like the BLM behind where all these people's homes burned? If they build, they have to look